Okay, so today we'll discuss about API, right? API is a very, very important concept in the life of a technical person, right? Who is a tech savvy. Uh, they should know what API is, right? And API stands for Application Program Interface. And I will show you the API, how a tester can actually interact with API. Okay, just a sec. Okay, so API, another word for API is REST API or RESTful Web Service. Web Service is also called API. And it's actually, I would say, before I read this definition, I'll show you the screen and then we'll try to compare that. So instead of showing you a boring definition of API, I'll show you something which is really interesting for you. Now, if you see this, I would say for you, this is a web page, okay? When you see this here, what actually you see, there are some users here, okay? Give me a second. Hello? Yes, Usha, I'm taking class right now. I can talk right now. Is it important? Ask Ikra, please. Okay. So this is what you see a web page, okay? But you don't see where this data is coming from. This is all data about George, about Janet, about Ema. These are, maybe you can call them employees, right? All these employees you see on web page. So when, as a tech, as a IT, as a computer science student, when you see any web page, what do you see? What it looks like. So you have two things here. The first thing is UI. You are looking it in the browser, which is a Chrome browser, right? I open this web page in the Chrome browser, and there is some content, some data. For instance, George is the data for me. Okay, Janet is the data for me. Ema is a data for me. And you see there are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 employees or 6 people you are looking at on the screen, right? Now, if I want to see this data behind the screen, I would go and look at the API response. I would say how the API brings this data in the front end, but how the data looks in the API call, it would be in some format. For instance, you design a table in MS Word or Excel, but if you have data in Notepad it looks very weird, right? There is no formatting, but you do formatting in MS Word. So looks like Notepad has some data, but you bring it in MS Word. So you manually copy and paste and you format. So API has unformatted data, but this API is actually a program. From that program, you can request data. And when you request data, the program give you a response. So I'll give you an example here. Looking at this rest.in, rect means request, rest means response. This is a website, a simple website to give you a sample of some API endpoints, right? So if you see here, there is the API called API users, and you see the name is here, the job is here, the ID is here, and all these things. This is the API response, which is in the curly bracket, right? But if you see a web page, it looks like this. But on the back end, it looks like this, right? So I'm going to read this definition now, that what is actually a RESTful API or RESTful web service. RESTful web service is a lightweight, maintainable, and scalable service that is built on the REST architecture. RESTful web service expose API from application in a secure, uniform, stateless manner to the calling client. Very hard definition, right? Now we need to understand a lot of words. What is calling client? What is stateless? What is uniform? What is RESTful web service? The calling client can perform predefined operation using RESTful service. The underlying protocol for REST is HTTP, and REST stands for representational state transfer. Now, this is a very hard definition, I understand, for people especially who have no computer science background. But in the layman, I would say that RESTful web service is a program, okay, that allows you to test, okay, and give you a response in the format of JSON, JSON, Java State Object Notation, right? So JSON response is a response which is like this, which I showed you a bit earlier. Something like, I'll go and show you here. Something like this, right? So I'll go and copy this guy, page equal to 1. So this is a API call. What this call is doing, this call is going to this service and giving me all the users on page number 1, right? Let's see. Wow. Now you got this response, right? Now you see the page number is 1 and the first guy is George Bluth. And if you look at his image, let me right click and open his image. This guy, right? This data, this guy. And if you remember, I showed you earlier a UI of this. You see this first guy? Now in this, you are looking at the value in the curly bracket in different format. You have first name George, last name Bluth, and avatar is image. The second is Janet, page number 1. Second is Janet. This is page number 1. The 6 people are there, 3 and 3. 6 employees or 6 customers or whatever you call. And they have image, they have email, and their first name. And same thing you see in the API in different format. So let's say if I write page number 1 and I see only 1 employee here. And on the UI, if I see only 1, it means that API is only filtering 1 employee. And let's say if I do write page number 1 and I see 20 here. So API should have 20 as well. So actually as a QA, you will be given an endpoint like this, and you are looking the data in the API call, in the API response. In this response, you will see these 6 people. See, Tracy is the last one, right? And here, the Tracy is the last one. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? For now, up till now, as a normal end user, you always go and test the website. Testing website means like making sure every link works or not. But if I ask you, can you tell me what APIs are involved in this web application? What are the API behind the screen, or what are the API this application is using? As an end user, you don't know. But as a QA, when you become a technical tech person or a technical member of the team, you are a QA member of the team. Developers, QA, architect, business analyst, all these members of the Scrum team know about API. So when you join a company or a project as a QA, you should be learning about APIs, okay? And you should know how to test API. So testing API does not mean only looking at the response, but making sure in the response, the value which you are getting is correct, and the same value appears on the UI. Sometimes UI is not ready. you are just looking behind the screen. Only the JSON response. This is called JSON response, right? In the curly bracket, okay? So you can convert that into table as well. There are some tools that you can convert. We'll talk about that later, right? But let's go back to the presentation and we will see what it says, right? So now the first thing is resource, right? So the first key element in the resource itself is, let's assume that web application on the server has records of several employees. And the URL is this, which I showed you, 6 employees, right? Now, in order to access an employee record resource via REST service, one can issue a command, this, okay, which I already issued. The command tells the web server to please provide the details of page number 1, or please provide the employees on page number 1. Okay, and here we got employees on page number 1. Okay, we can also request for page number 2. Now, if I write page equals to 2, I get another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, another 6 employees. But for this, I don't have a UI URL. So you see now the Michael Lawson and Lindsay and Toby's, I have only one web application where I can see 6. I don't know how to go next. I don't have that UI. I don't have that page. I don't know the URL of that. But at least when the developer will develop the UI development is actually the front-end developers works on the UI. The API, the people who work on the API called back-end developers. They work on API. QA test API and front-end both. So this is front-end and this is API, back-end. You see, it's very simple to understand what are the API involved on this page. But it is not necessary that one web page of an application only have one API. There could be some other data here that is coming from another API. So in your whole project, there could be 5 or 6 API involved. Like if you go to toyota.com, so if you go, there are a lot of APIs. If you can select a drop down here and you go on vehicles, let's say you're going on, let me refresh that. I don't know why it's not working. So let's click this, right? And you're going on, for instance, find dealers, right? So here you see in this zip code, you are getting so many dealers, right? You see left side, you're getting so many dealers. So this is one API. Now, maybe when you go to another URL, build and price, or let's say search inventory, you will see a lot of cars. So this is another API. So in one application, there are a lot of APIs. Now, in order to find out about the API, how many dealers are on this page, you will be given that URL. And you will be making sure that, okay, 75025 has how many dealers? I don't know, 50 or 40 or whatever dealers are coming, right? So these dealers are on the application as well as it is. If something you don't see here, 0. As a QA, you will look into the API. So it means the first thing you need to learn about what are the endpoints. Endpoint means API URL. URL means the web address. It's not called the web address, it's the API endpoint. Because web address means website.com. In API, it's not .com, you see. rect.in/API/users (page is equal to 2. So if I see now, if I want to see page equal to 3, there are no employees. So it means we have only 2 pages content, right? The third page we don't have. But the program, if there is more, there are more users, it will populate because the program is developed. The program that developer has developed is different. It's a different program. We don't have to learn how to develop, how to write API program, but we should know how to access API. Okay. So let's go back. Any questions so far, please, guys? You can ask me if you have any question. Okay, good. So now I'm going to show you a picture. This picture, if you see, diagram, this is client. What is client means? Browser. This is API and this is database at the back end. So you request in the browser, you request API and you get data from the database. So this is your API program, right? I'll show you another diagram. Sorry about this. Now you see this program, this diagram. Now you have API here and you have SQL data here. And now API will retrieve data from SQL using some program. So this is, when you see engine like this, it means there is a program. There is some code. So in the API, you can filter. Let's say you request something in search. In jcpenney.com, you search for something. Like I will give an example again for Toyota, which is easy. We have already opened. I'll search for 90091 zip code. So this is the URL, but in the API, it will be like toyota.com/something, right? But if I search for that, you will see the dealers of only this zip code, which is California. So as a UI tester, you will test UI and the functionality over there. But as an API backend, you will be looking at the APIs, right? Okay. So let's proceed to the next slide. Now, in order to understand API better, we have to understand the methods of API. Means what exactly you do if you have a database. See, database means you are keeping records of any item, any customer, any employee. What do? You either you add record, or you modify the record, or you delete the record. What do? Add, update, delete, or I would say insert, update, delete. These are three common operations you do in the database. In that sense, you have get, put, post, and delete method. So why I'm saying these methods? These methods are built-in methods for API. When you insert, actually you are adding a new row, which is actually put. What do? If you perform put request, the server will update the entry. So put is not insert, it's update. So like I said, insert, update, and delete. Post is posting a new data. So I would say here, I'll go and change post to is equal to insert. Okay, insert new row. But put is means update, right? And delete, and get means to retrieve, right? So let's save this guy and I'll show you again the slideshow. So now, if you learn about SQL backend, there are insert command, update command, delete command. But if you are doing insert, update, delete from API, you can't use those commands. You have to use put, post, and delete method. Put means update, post means insert, and delete means delete. But there is one method called get. Get means retrieve. Normally, you retrieve most of the time. You are not actually adding. For instance, tell me one small example, one example in a bank. When you go to a bank, what transaction you perform? Whether you are using a bank app or you are going to a banker, teller. Can you give me an example? Anybody who is doing banking, what operation do you perform on daily basis, or anyone?
Withdrawal, deposit.
Withdraw or deposit. Now, what is withdraw? Is it insert, update, or delete?
Update.
Update. You are withdrawing some funds, it means you are updating. But again, one more thing, very good thing. It is updating your balance. But is it any other thing, updating your balance? When you do one more transaction, let's say if I withdraw $100 from my bank, okay? When I go online, what do I see? Do I see a new row? Do I see a new row? New record?
No, the same record is the balance has changed.
Okay, and the same record, you don't see that on 3/20 March 19 or March 15, you withdraw $100 and your balance is this. Do you see a new row in transaction table or transaction rows? Right?
Yes.
Okay. It means if you want to update your balance, you have to insert new row, which is kind of a debit because you are debiting some amount, you are withdrawing some amount. So there will be new row inserted in the transaction table, but in your one table, which is your balance table or whatever, where the balance is updated. But you have always, when you withdraw, there are multiple transactions happen, multiple, I would say, commands. One is update, but one is also insert a new row. Now, if you open a new account, what do you think? What do you do? Is it put or post?
Post.
Post. Because you are inserting a new
Post.
member. It's completely a post. It's not put because you're not updating anything. But when you are withdrawing, it is put because you are updating. Okay? You are updating, but it is also a post, a new transaction. So there are two commands that are involved, right? Two transaction, I would say. But what about if you go to bank and just inquire your balance? How much is your balance? You just go and search. So which command is that?
Get.
Get. Very good. So now you know this is what we do every day. Usually we do get. So I think if you withdraw $100, you may not withdraw every day, but sometimes people watch their balance every day. Watching balance is get. So most of the time there is get inquiry, get query instead of put, post, and delete. Delete is to remove the completely transaction, which is very hard. Nobody delete. Normally bank doesn't delete your data. So delete is very risky, but put, get, post are common. Get is very common. Now, in Toyota.com, when I'm searching for a car, is it get, put, post, or delete? Get. You are searching. Search is get. Get me something. Get me something. So now I'll show you on this website that on this rec, what we are doing here, right? If you look at this page, on this page, you see request and response. So when you want to list user, you will just write /API/user rec rest/API page 2, and you will get all the users on page 2 with the response of 200 code means being success. So when you see 200, it means it's success, and you see all the users here. So this is the request for this. Let me click on this and I'll show you. I'm opening another tab and let me show you. You see all this? Page number 2, which I showed you earlier, right? Anyways. Second is if you want to list single user, then the request is again get. This is list all user. This is list single user. Okay. And list again, it is only get. And this is single user. Now, if your single user is not found, you get 404. So you need to learn the response code when single user is not found. Okay, because for instance, if I write something, let's say I'm reading like correct, but something is wrong here, right? So when I write something, for instance, QA Guru 99 slash, you see 404? This kind of error means data not found. So this is 404 if, because that is not a valid page. But let's say the page is valid and you see 404, it means your API is down or there are some errors in the backend. List resource, again you get 200. So all these, when you're listing something, all these requests are get, whether you are retrieving a single row or you're retrieving a list of users or even list of cards or one card. This is all get. Now what is post? Create. Now in the post, you can create a user like this, right? You can request a user and you are adding a new user. That is called post. So if you go and open this in the new tab, these are all users, right? I'm not sure, they're not showing how to create here. This is not proper request, but we can check that later, right? I'm just saying this is create means post. And maybe we can run that and we can, when the record is created, we get 201 response. Whenever you get 201, it means new row is added, new record is added. Now put means update, I said, right? So you are updating Xeon resident and actually Morphus. So if you see there is some change, I think they are not changing anything here, but it says update at something. Maybe you can change the spelling name of something, but the response is again 200 if successfully update. Forget about patch, just talk about delete. Now delete is when you delete a row, you get 204 response. You get means, of course, the API will give you 204, it means record is deleted. So login is also successful, it's post, because post means a create. Whenever you log in, why it says login successful is post? Because it creates a token. So I would say what happens in the backend, a lot of transaction happens. When you log into your bank, it always creates a token because they know that now this guy Eve is login and they have to generate a token and that token stays there as long as you are logging. Sometimes you see after 15 minutes, you're automatically logged out. Why? Because token expires. So this is the thing, right? You can see that if maybe there is a code written for that, not yet, right? So there is nothing we can do about it. So they have given some name and like that, but they have not really developed that API that way, right? If they have developed API like that, we could have practiced that. But anyways, this is, I'll go and I'll show you. This is the UI and this is API response, right? So there are different tools that is we can use to test API, to view API calls. And one of the tool is Postman, very popular Postman. And I'll show you how we can use Postman through this, right? And another is Swagger. So first let's talk about Postman, right? So I'll go and I'll write Postman download. And we can download a Postman and we can use online as well. It's up to us. But if you want to download a Postman API, Postman app, sorry, not API, for Windows, we can just write Postman download and we can download. And you see, this is how it looks, right? Okay, and now I'll install. So anything when you want to install, if you have Mac, you have to look at for the Mac. If you search in Google Chrome or in Safari, you'll land on the Mac page and you will download. 64-bit Windows means your Windows machine. You can download. This is Postman is a tool. Always remember, Postman is not a program. It's a program. It's a tool to test API, to view APIs. Okay. So you can create a new account, or if you have account, you can log into that account as well. I think I have account for QA group. I can try. I think it was not sure if it's still working or not. Yeah, it worked, right? And I will just open this. So now the Postman got open on my laptop, which is a Windows machine. And now I can show you something here as an example. I'll not give you a deeper way because you'll be learning a lot of things, but I'm showing you the same API which we are using RestRec for the users, right? And how we can do that I will show you, right? So I'll go and I can go to this main interface here and I can click on APIs. These are APIs. You can create API, but we don't have to create API. We can just click plus sign. And what we can do is we can click this plus sign and we get this get dialog box. The get text box, sorry, not dialog, text box. Get again means to get the data. So let's try that API which we have been using, right? And see how it looks in Postman. So if you look at this API call, is actually for the page number 1 or page number 2. So I'll go and I'll open this here and I'll copy this, Control C, and I'll go to my Postman tool, which is in the tray here below, and I will paste this request. You see the page 2 is a value, key value, and I click send. And I get the same response which I was looking at the browser. Why I'm showing you in the Postman? You say, oh, Asif, I can use browser. Why you're showing in the Postman? Because actually you cannot use browser to look at the API response. Because when you are actually using in your real world or in your actual real project, you will be asked to enter your authorization, right? Means a token. So here you will write username and password, or maybe they will ask you to enter something called token here. You see? So because RestRec is just example, there is no token for that. So that cannot be used in the browser. Browser means Chrome browser, like I pasted. So usually you will be testing in this, and you see in below, this is the JSON response. You can also see XML response if it has one, but JSON is very common. You can also see text response, but which is very ugly. So JSON looks pretty easy to understand. Now you know ID is 7 for Michael Lawson. First name is Michael, last name is Lawson, and avatar is this URL for image. The second record is this, the third employee is this, the fourth is this, and you see all these employees. If you see here in the param, you change in the param, look at the page 1 and you click send. Now you see all the employee of page 1. You don't have to even change here. You can change the value here. This is called key and value. So in the Postman, we can do get. Also, we can do post. We can do put. We can do delete. So here, if I do post, for instance, and I can try that. I'm not sure whether this is programmed is working or not. Let's try the post one. And if you go to this page and you have this post and you have this API user like this, okay, and I can open this here, this one, and I'll try in the postman using post, this guy. Now it says you can add key and value. Now you see, this is the post call. Post means adding a new row. So I'm trying to add a new row. I need key and value. So I know the ID 1 to 12 is busy. I will write ID is equal to, let's say 20, a new ID. ID is equal to 20. Email is equal to QA Guru. Okay, let's add this in the quotes. QA Guru online at gmail.com. What else I need? First name. Make sure that the first underscore name, right? Way it is written, right? Right. I will write here QA. And the last key is last name. Last underscore name. And that is what? Let's say Guru. And the last is avatar. I will write AVATAR. And that requires a URL, right? I will write https://QAGuru99.com. Just an example, right? And I see all these four elements, all these four key values are there. I'm adding a new row because method is post. And I click send. What happens? It says created. Wow. Let's see if it says created, how I can get this guy, right? So in order to get this QA Guru record, because I created it is created in the backend. Now when I get it, it should be there, right? So let's go and try get method. In the get method, I will use the same API. And if you remember that in the API call, I know how to get a single user, right? So there is one method called get single user and user equal to 2. What was my user ID? 20. Let's try this. So I will click and open the new tab. It says user equal to 2. I will copy this in the postman get, and instead of 2, I will write 20. Let's search, send. So it is not saved, unfortunately, right? Yeah. So it means it never gets saved there, right? But it says 404, not found. You see 404? But let's try 22. 2 is here, right? 200. So it means API is not working. That's what I said. I don't know whether this API is working because I'm not a developer. I did not make. But if I'm testing an API post method, it should be created. It gave me it was created. Maybe it got deleted right away, right? So we can try ID is equal to ID equal to 10 and ID is equal to 20 is not coming here. Okay. 20 is not. Okay. It should be working, but yeah, there is some issue, right? So this is actually a get method. I did post method, but didn't work. Let's try update. Let's try update. Okay. So I'll go update means put, sorry. Okay, let's try put. So I'll call a first member here. Okay. And I'll try to update a value here, right? So what I want to update, if you see the names of the first user is, let's go and check what is the name of first user. I think it was, the second is Janet. Let's change Janet to Priyanka, okay? So changing number 2, right? And for changing number 2, I want an put method. This request, right? So I'll go and changing Janet to Priyanka. Let's go. So I'm going to write put method for number 2. I got updated, but let's change it to Key is first underscore name and change it to Priyanka. I think it should be in the quotes. I believe right here. Let's try this. Send. It says updated. Now try to retrieve this second one in the same session. And I go and get number 2. It's still not changed. So it means they're not allowing us to change in the backend, right? It's just for example, but they're not. So this API, what they have developed, is not allowing us to change the content, right? Because otherwise people will go and change the images and all these things. So they don't want that, right? So that's fine. That's fine. But actually, when you are given an API, you have a power to change it, because this is just an example. And I'm not sure why it's not working, but I will definitely dig out more. I was expecting it should work. Any questions so far, guys? Please. Any questions? No questions. Let's try one delete, right? I'll go again to Postman and try to delete. And if I go and select delete, let's go second one. So it doesn't give me anything, right? So in preview, it's not giving me anything. I just said 2, right?
You said if it displays 2 or 4, it should delete.
It's getting 2 or 4, right?
Yeah.
But it says no content. So it means delete is working, but let's try to retrieve again the second one. So get second one. It's coming back. So actually it's not performing, but you see, when I do delete second one, I am getting 2 or 4. It means it got deleted. But you know what is happening? They are refreshing and they're adding it again because they don't want them. Otherwise, people would have worked on that and delete a lot of records, right? So it means when we are getting 2 or 4, it's got deleted. When we are posting something, when we are updating something, right? Or inserting a new row, we are getting that response code. So if we are getting 200, 204, 404, so it means all these responses are working as expected, which are given on this website, right? So you can go and look at this site. So in my presentation, this site is given, and you know, these are the response code. 200 for get. For post, it should be 201. For put, it is again 200. For delete, it is 204. Right? So I remember now. Now, if you want to do, you need to maybe pay for this, right? For this service, right? But anyways, we'll work on some other services, right? So any questions so far for APIs? So now, how many, if you think about any other application other than Toyota, I gave an example. Let me ask you an example. What do you think? What are the APIs that can be used in order to develop this jcpenney.com? Any API you can assume here on this home page? Anybody?
Search for dresses, search for pants.
So it means you
It's
think
like
search,
get
okay, you think search for dresses and search for pants will be separate API?
yes.
I would think
I think it's the same API, but type of dress would be either
The query
pants
is different.
or
Yeah, the query is different. So I think it would be like find items API.
Okay.
Okay. Or you can say the API is items. Now you have get items, you have put items, you have delete items. So what happens here? Items could be any item that is here. But you see, data is huge. API is one, but data is huge. But here there is one more thing you can talk about. There could be an API for create account. For that, of course, item API will not work. So create account is separate API domain, and category or whatever you can do, items is different API, right? Okay. Now orders could be a different API. You track and rewards is a different API, and credit card is a different API. Because when you go for rewards, it's a totally different ball game, right? You see how many rewards will be listed here: 5% cashback, reward in red, gold, platinum members. So this is the different API. When I apply for this, when I sign in, I'll see my rewards. So here is the thing: if you think about API used in banking, if you just go and search for this, you will see there are a lot of companies that are only providing APIs. Okay, and you can buy API from them and plug it into your application, right? For instance, API for payments, payment gateway, right? Now, payment gateway means that you want to plug in the payment into your application. So I'll go to stripe.com and I'll say, okay, I want to buy a payment API from this, so I can plug in the payment. So let me show you here. When I go to qagro99.com, and if you go here, what is this? What is this?
Gateway.
I plug in the PayPal API here, and when you click here, you see a pop-up open, and when you click pay here, you can pay from your debit card or credit card using this. Now, if you scroll down, there is another API for GoDaddy. You can pay from here. So I don't have to validate the credit card and all this. This is done by the payment gateway. I'm just giving an example. So normally you don't write the code for API, some third-party API you plug in. But in JCPenney and Toyota, this is not a third-party API. These dealers are coming, but Toyota has that. Maybe this another team is working on API for dealers API. So if you see these dealers, and if I right click and inspect element, and if I go in network and I search again, I will see this zip code is giving me all the dealers here, which I see on the UI, and I can also go this is the API, right? And I can copy service/tcom, right? I can copy this and paste here, and I can see this API. This is very rough, but you can also install JSON viewer, and now you can see here in a better way. Wait, sorry. Oh, JSON viewer is sorry. Should be working. JSON viewer plugin. Okay, it's already there, right? So I should be able to see it. What's going on this code? Just a sec. Maybe it's not working. It should was working last time. Something is wrong. I'll just do online, right? Forget about plugin. I'll do online. So there are a lot of JSON formatted, and I can paste this data, which I see for Toyota, right? So I can select this all. Yeah, now it's formatted, right? See, so I had to maybe refresh it. Sorry. So you see now, wait, when you go and click this guy, refresh, yeah, now you got it. So now you see it's formatted, right? But even though what you can do is, you can select this all, it's very huge, right? I can go and show you for RestRic because this is very huge. I can select this guy, right? And actually copy, and I'll go in the formatter here and I can paste here. And you see in this side, I'm writing the complete JSON, right? This, because there are a lot of formats available, we can use that and we can see format JSON. Okay, there's some errors here, we have to fix it because it's not, it's saying error number line 1. So maybe we did not copy it properly. Let me close all these. There are a lot of pages open, right? So let me open the new window. Okay, and I'll go with RestIN. And I'll try to show you page number 2, this guy. Now you see this, I'm going to copy this whole response, or even I can do from Postman, right? So I can copy this get. Now I want to format this, right? So what I'll do is select all, copy, and there are formatters available. Normally we don't do that, but I'll just show you JSON formatter, right? Okay, I'll go here. It says paste the code here, and now you see here, and then I can do format beauty, and you can say tab space, close this guy. So here it says validate, for it's validate, there are no issues, and then you can go for format beauty, right? And you can go for convert JSON, okay, to CSV. Now CSV is, you know, the Excel format, right? When you click CSV, and then maybe you can download, you see, this is JSON format at TXT. And now you get the data with the commas separated, right? All this data. And now you can copy this in Excel, and there are some formatter that will convert the JSON actual format into Excel. And you can look at that, right? I think there is no Excel here, right? But XML is there. So XML looks different. If you do XML, XML is different, right? You see, XML is actually a very different format, which I'll show you later. You don't have to worry about it. But you can convert JSON to table online, right? I'll just go to Google because Google gives us better with JSON to table, right? So you see this. Now you can paste this guy and table. Copy JSON and place. Now you see the format. Now it is in JSON, but this is a tabular format. So on the UI, you always see like that, but this is a JSON format. So I just copy for one row, but you can do it for like, if you have one ID, you see this tabular format, right? So you see this URL is there, the text is another. So key and value, ID is key and the value is 2. ID is email and the value is this. Now avatar is what? ID or value? ID, right? Or key? Sorry, key or value? It's key. What is text? Is it a key or value? It's a key. So you have, how many keys are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 keys, right? And against every key there is a value. What you do in JSON response, you validate those values and key and value as well. Okay. Got it? So this is very important to understand. Now let's go to Guru 99 and REST API. And let's see what Guru 99 says about API, right? So if you go scroll down, a GET method is used to extract information from the given server using a given URI. Now it's not URL URI, which we paste, right? This is URI, right? REST. Oh, sorry. This is URI. This one. Okay. So what it says that GET is used to extract information from the given URI using GET request. It should only extract data that should have no other effect on data. The GET will not make effect. If you try to check balance 50 times a day, will your balance get updated? No, right? But post is used to create a new entry. If you deposit new amount, it will create a new transaction and update your balance. So it will post and it will do put as well. Post means update. It will update your balance, but it will also put one entry, one new transaction. And also, if you add your child to your account, it is again put. If you add your spouse to your account, it's put. Delete means if you want to delete a transaction, right? This means removing from. But again, delete a transaction is not the way we think. You can't delete a transaction in a bank. But you can delete item in the shopping cart. How? You go to jcpenney.com and let's say I am searching for some shoes. Okay, and I added one shoes here, this guy. I said I want this blue color, size 11, medium. Okay, and then I said add to cart, and I go and view cart. Now if I go and click remove, what is this? Delete. Actually, the API call will go in the backend and delete the row. Because this is not, this I want to delete. But once you create a transaction, when you do the payment and you cancel, then only transaction will be deleted, but record will be, so you can see in the Amazon, it says how many items you canceled or returned. So returned and cancel is not delete, but remove is delete. You see, it's gone, right? Now your cart is empty. So where is that gone? We were talking about this, right? So remove all, right? By giving a URI. So always remember, you have to select the method in the Postman, and you can use all these methods in the Postman, right? So far what we learned: get, post, put, and delete. We did not learn about copy, option, link. There's so many methods, but view is, get is very common. Get is very common. In the URI, you have to send a URI. Without URI, you cannot test anything in Postman, right? Without the endpoint. What is this called? Endpoint. Okay. API testing has a very good future, right? So if you know about API, how to test API, you can automate that as well. In automation, we will learn in rest assured. In Java, you can automate the API. And we are going to learn that. Because when you go for interview, they will ask you what API you have used in your previous project. And we will explain you that, right? Once we'll come to the your resume preparation, we will train you about your project. Because that is very important to learn. Any questions so far? Anybody online? If you have any question, you can also ask in chat box, and I will look randomly and I'll answer those questions, right? Okay. Now, how many of you are really know about what is the difference between manual testing and automation testing? Anybody knows the difference between manual testing and API testing? Oh, manual testing and automation testing, sorry.
So manual requires human intervention. So human is doing the testing.
So do you think API is manual or automation?
We are making a call. It depends on whether the tool is making the call or whether the person is clicking on it to call the API. So,
okay. So let's say I send a request through get method using Postman. Am I doing manual testing or automation right now?
Since it is through Postman, it is automation.
Okay. So it is not automation, right? Why it is not automation? Because I'm using a tool called Postman, but I'm not writing any code. Postman is not doing it itself. I'm using a tool, Postman. But in Postman, we can definitely do automation. We can create a request and we can automate that, and we can run those requests and validate some of the assertion response. So automation does not mean using tool means automation. Yes, when we talk about Selenium, we have to write a program for Selenium. Okay, so that is a separate ball game. But using Postman and Swagger, or if you're writing SQL query at the back end, that's all manual testing, right? So don't think that the manual testing is useless, because there are QA, they should know about those tools, about APIs, about SQL, about writing test cases, about all this opening defects manually. So you are using Jira tool to open defect. You are using Quality Center to write test cases, or ALM, or Jira plugin, Zephyr, or anything, right? This is all manual. When you come to write a Java program, Python, C#, any program that will run and perform some test for you, you don't have to sit down and watch. That is called automation. So automation means no human interaction is involved, right? For instance, if you start your iRobot, it will clean your carpet, right? You are not telling your iRobot to go here and there, right? Definitely you have some boundaries, you do it. But again, this is called automation. But if you're using a vacuum cleaner, it's not automation. So there is a manual process for vacuum cleaner, but vacuum cleaner is could be automatic, but it's not automation because you are cleaning. You are using a tool, a vacuum cleaner. Vacuum cleaner, you will never see on the vacuum cleaner, it says iRobot with a stick. Robot means automation, right? So very important concept. So guys, you will be learning Postman, you will be learning SOAP UI, you will be learning Quality Center, ALM, or you're learning Jira. This is all manual. But when it comes to Java programming, Selenium WebDriver, anything like APM, that is automation. So automation tools are different than manual tools, but Postman can be used, SOAP UI can be used for automation, right? For API testing. Okay. Now, when you become a QA member of the team, you are not only testing stuff, you are also attending a lot of meetings. And the meetings are very common meetings, right? I'm going to write about those meetings for you, and we will discuss those meetings. But let's take a break for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back at 1:25, and we'll start discussing about meeting, right? By the time you can think about questions you have, and I can address those questions as well. And I'll be back in like 2 minutes. I'll come back my seat, take a water break, and I'll come back to my seat. If you have anything, please note down. I'll just stop recording here and I'll start the training again, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm trying to validate the user number 2 in Postman. So I'm going to copy this URI in the Postman. And I see the user number 2 is Janet Weaver. And I'm validating this, the same information on UI, right? Let's go to UI. And I'll go in the UI, the second user is Janet, you see? The third user is Ema. And the email for Ema is this, ema.wong@restrack.in. So let's try third user in Postman. And I'll go to Postman and change it to 3. And you see Ema is there. So we are using Postman to see the API response using get method. And the get method, I'm getting the same response what I see in the UI. So try user 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by changing the parameters here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and click send button. Okay.
Postman, but every time I have a phone, Postman phone is duplicated with the now storage here.
Did the video download?
Yeah, I did. And it was added into the extension, but it's not getting.
It's here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I finished doing the check.
So I'm sending a separate saving these requests like that, right? So then you can do one thing. You can also create your own collection. In the collection, you can have separate queries, right? Like that, right? So what I did, I clicked collection, I added a new collection, right? And the new collection name was rec res. And in the rec res, I saved this thing. So let's say I have a new collection. Collection means it's the whole project, right? So I will say API project. And this is API project, right? And I can add a request here. And the request is this. And then I can send, I see the response is coming. Sorry. I see the response is coming. I can save this in the rec-res project, or I can also save this in my API project. So it is now there. Now let's say I want to save, I can edit this request and see user number 10, right? And I want to save as, this is a 10 one, right? And I can click save. Now you see I have 2 and 10. So I can run this. So I don't have to really memorize this thing. I can save these queries here. So you can add a collection. In the collection is a project name. Under the project, you can have several get requests. Even you can have post request. Even you can have a lot of requests. And you can click send only and select one of the requests. And it could be, let's say if I want a post request, I can also add one more and I can say, oh, I want a post request for this guy, let's say. And I can say I want to add something, for instance, and this is the post request. I want to save it. And then I can say, save this. Now this is a post request. So I have 2 get and 1 post request. You can see in the collection, right? So how do you create a collection? Click on the collection, click plus and create a new collection and give the name of the collection, like API project or whatever. And then when you save it, it will be go under it. It will go whenever you run the request. You have a save button here. You can do save as and keep the name you want to keep the same name, or you can write whatever you want, right? So let's say I can write here save as this is, I can write it single user. It means this is for single user. When I save it, you will see this is single user. So I can change now the user number 4, and I know this is for single user. Now I can say this is for like list all user. So I know that list all user request is this, right? It is given here. List all user, right? This is the one. Page 2. Okay, I can write like this. For instance, I can use this one page wise, right? So I can send this one and save as, I can write here page wise list. Get page wise list, right? Get page-wise list, right? And I can save this. Now I have get page-wise list, get single user. In get page-wise list, I can just change the page number here. Like instead of 2, I want first page. I can send. So I have single user, I have get page-wise list. I have post. I can delete this one because this one is the same. Delete. 3 dot, you can delete. So you can create a collection, right? Nilanjan, it's working for you. Everybody is able to download Postman.
Yeah, it's working for me.
Okay.
Yes.
What about
Yes, sir.
Vidya,
Yes.
So, Subbu, Mary?
Yes, I got it.
Yeah. Yes, I got it.
Okay, good.
I've
Shilpa,
downloaded Postman, but I haven't figured out the Chrome extension part yet.
okay, forget about Chrome extension. Let's go and download the one which is very easy. So if you figure
That
out,
I have.
yeah, okay, awesome. Don't worry about extension right now. I thought extension would be easier. I think downloading is much easier. It's not a big deal, right? We can download, and actually the concepts are more important than using a tool. So if you know how to use get and post request and how to make a collection here, you can do that, right?
Can you go over how to make the collection again?
So let's say if I tab on select the collection, I click plus sign. Okay, I can write here QA Guru 99, right? That's my project, for instance, right? And I'll go and click. So QA Guru 99 is created now. You see this thing? Now it says the collection is empty. It says collection is empty, right? I'll click add request and I have, it says new request name, right? I am saying single user, right? In the single user, I'll go and give a URL that is for single user. So let me go and give you a URL for single user, which is on our website. This one, right? So I will go. This is the single user URL, right? URI. And I will paste here and send. And I got user number 2. I'll just save. Now I see single user is under QA Guru 99, right? This is one request. If you want to add another request, I'll go and click a plus sign again. That's another request. And I can also save this request as list all users. So let me grab that query for list all users, which is this one, page wise, right? Let's do page wise. List all user page wise. So again, I will paste this and I'll send. And when I click save, I'll do save as, because I want to save the name as list users page wise. Now I have, oh, sorry, it goes there. Let me add it here. I can move it here, right? Right. So I have 2 queries here. In the QA Guru, I have 2 get queries. So QA Guru is a collection. We can make it res like whatever you want. Single user, I'll just click send. I can change the value of the user and run. For page wise, I can just change the value of the page. So I know I don't have to copy and paste the query every time. The API call, the API URI, I don't have to remember it, memorize it. It's saved in my collection. Try that, right?
Okay, I see now. Thank you.
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, okay, because I can't hear anything again. I was like,
No, I'm waiting on you guys to give me a signal that you are good. I can pause
I'm
it.
good.
So what is API? API is a service, okay, that we can use, that is used to develop web application, interact between user interface and the backend, and we can send request through Postman, using Postman to an API and get response and validate that response, okay, and make sure that we are getting all the correct response with the correct response code, like 200, okay, 201, or whatever the code we are doing. There are a lot of methods that are used in API, in REST API especially, get, post, okay, and put and delete. So all these methods are used to update or add or delete the data from the backend. Okay, we have been using API for several years. There are third-party API which we can plug in into an application, for instance, PayPal. But other than payment gateway, there are a lot of other API that are also developed by the same developers which are the part of your team. So let's say, for example, in JCPenney, there are a lot of API that they are used to retrieve or get the content on their web page. In Toyota, we are using dealers API to list all the dealers. We are also using cars API to display all the cars. So in that sense, API is everywhere, and Postman is a tool to test or to view API. Okay. In the API, when we send request, we can get response in JSON, and we can format that JSON response in tabular format as well. But we can validate those response and make sure that the response is getting as per our requirement, right? Our requirement means, like, if we are searching for cars, we always get cars. We're searching for clothes, we get clothes. So this is very common, right? So I'm gonna show you one more important thing here. So if I go for Toyota.com, and if I write here dealers, right? And if I go and inspect element here, and if I go to network, and let's say refresh, that's one API. So now you see this. This is the dealer list, all the dealer list for 90091 code. I can change it to 75025, which is Texas, and you see all the list. I can use this API into my Postman, and let me show you how I can do that. Pasting here, send. You see, you're getting all the dealers here, right? And if you want to try that, I can give you this link into your Slack. Are you getting all the notification on Slack, right? QA class March 2023, everybody?
Yes.
Okay. So try this and see, you are getting all the responses here in the Postman, right? And now I can save as, I can write down here, Toyota dealers. I can make a separate collection for that. I could just, for now, I'm just saving it here. So I can just send this. Now I can change the zip code. and see different dealers for different zip code. Right? Please try this one as well. So everybody make sure that you provide your all information to Ikra, and Ikra is our, she is our student admin on Slack. So you see here in the QA March channel, if you go to members, Ikra is there, IQRA, and she is here. So you can just ping her, and if she asks you information, please provide her, right? Anybody who has paid the fees and is not on the Slack, I can add you right now.